Hey, everybody. Thank you once again for tuning into the Dancing Sober podcast. This is our mini accomplishment. We are at 10 episodes. We've made it this far. And we don't really know what we're doing yet, but we hope to know what we're doing by the time we get to 100 episodes and then 1,000. So I want to give a quick shout out to the people here at Outer Circle Media. Thank you for inviting us into your home and letting us do this. Please remember to like and subscribe. It's important that you subscribe so that I can continue doing this for you. I want to give a huge shout out to our friends at Movita Juice Bar. And they've been sponsoring us since we started, and they have some giveaways here. I have some items here that I'm going to give away at the end of this episode. So make sure you watch this on YouTube so you can comment and win some of these things. Another announcement. I've decided to jump into the NFT world, and I'm dropping my first NFT this Friday. By the time you listen to this, the NFT will be up on the website, and it's going to be an auction for a week long. And so let's see. Go out there and make a bid, and hopefully you'll own a JPEG of the title card of this podcast. Now, without further ado, our guest today is comedian and philosopher and all-around heavenly figure, Martin Moreno. Let's get into it. You might think that you're seeing double, but if you're watching this on YouTube, you're definitely not seeing double. Today in the studio, we have Mr. Martin Moreno.
Thank you very much for the invite, Rafa. And I actually, I've been wearing a lot of lighter colors, but I wanted to compliment you because I knew you would be wearing black. And this is the first, and I actually purposely put on black
That's awesome.
just to compliment your whole vibe, your persona, your whole aura. And then the beard is just,
If I had the long hair, I think that would just totally make us look like twins. Yeah,
it would totally, or a goddamn couple that's been together forever, and they just started looking like each other, like owners and their dogs and things.
Yeah. It's not a bad look. You have a good look. Bro.
You have a great look.
Thank you.
I like your beard. I like your shirt.
Thank you for
inspire
coming,
me.
Martin. Like I tell all my guests, estás en tu casa. Right here, we could take this conversation any way you want. But let me start just by getting a little backstory. Martin Moreno is a comedian, tours the world right now with Mr. Gabriel Iglesias, constantly on tour, and grew up in Wilmas, California.
Wilmington, California, yes.
Wilmington. And just to, I don't want to give away your age, but what year would you born? So maybe people can do the math.
I will be 54 this year.
Oh, you're going to be 54?
I'll be 54. Yeah, I don't have a problem. I mean,
No, me neither, yeah.
talking about my
We're
age.
not trying to hide our age.
No, dude, not at all. I remember seeing people dye their beards and their goatees and their hair, and then next thing you know, they're shaving, and they're shaving way up here because it grows out so quickly. And I always thought how ridiculous it looked. And look, no disrespect if that's where you're at, and but I think at some point, I'm a fucking grandfather.
Yeah.
I'm 54.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Not to say that there's not some great years coming, hopefully, but a lot of the years, and I don't say the good years, but the years that where pain didn't exist, hangovers didn't exist, and sleep was, if it shows up, it's great. If not, fuck it. Let's keep it moving. Those days are gone. Good or bad, there. I was with G. Riley the other day, and G. Riley's also in his 50s, late 50s, I think.
Comedian G. Riley.
And we're eating at a Mexican restaurant, and I was wearing white pants, because I'm so clean. And I had something spill on my pants,
of course.
up by my groin area, and I stood up, and I'm like, God damn it! I got the napkin, I start wiping it, and I said, dude, I fucking spilled right by my goddamn dick. Yeah, don't worry about it. Ain't nobody looking at your dick. You're too old for people to be looking at your dick. We're both too old for people to be looking at our dick. And if they're looking at our dick, they got problems. And I was like, am I that old that nobody's looking at my dick no more, Rafa?
Well,
how many minutes in and we're talking about my dick?
We can talk about your dick. I said, estás en tu casa. And if you're at home, you could talk
And I do feel like I am at home because the first thing you asked me is, ¿Quieres café? Which is how my mom greeted everybody that showed up to our home. And I think it's a beautiful way to greet somebody. Do you want some coffee? And I love that you kept it old school, and it's café. It's just café negro. It's not a cappuccino. No. It's not a latte. It's not one of the fancy machines. This is an old school cup of coffee. So thank you.
And a ceramic mug by Mr. Wayne Perry. That's a little piece of art you're holding right now.
Oh, wow. Look at that. I hope I don't break it. That's a lot of pressure.
So I wanted to ask you about your age because I always felt like we're like in the same age group. We grew up similar. But I think that hip hop missed you by a few years because like you're more like
80s metal.
Iron Maiden, Ozzy Osbourne, all that, and all that stuff was in my life too. Like, but I was in elementary when I was listening to Ozzy Osbourne. But by middle school, like the formative years, that's when like hip hop became a really big thing to me, and Run DMC and all the early rappers,
Sure.
And just because of that, I think hip hop missed you. Just by if you were just a little younger, you might have like just been on the same hip hop trip that everybody else was, because that was like the punk of our era in the
absolutely. I mean, look, I remember rap and thinking to myself like, what? It was almost the first time I heard rap. Actually, I take that back. I might have been in elementary school because I think the first recognized rap song. Is it Rapper's Delight?
Yeah, Rapper's Delight. And I was 7 years old when I heard that.
Okay, so I was I'm
like 78.
You're in seven.
I was born in 71.
So you're 3 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So you were 7. I was 10, 11 the first time I heard it, right? And actually, I heard it the first time I heard it. I was probably closer to 12, so it wasn't like when it was brand new. And I remember it just blew my fucking mind. There was like nothing I had ever heard.
Chicken Tastes Like Wood was like the funniest shit ever.
Have you ever been to a friend's house to have lunch and the chicken tastes like wood? The macaroni. I mean, I can't. It's been so long.
You did good. Keep going.
But and then you try to play it off like you had too much, and his mom says you just being
so witty and funny.
It was brilliant. It was great, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the first rap song.
Yeah, it was the first like breakthrough that everybody was playing. That it was radio play and everything. Yeah.
So that was the first time. But then when rap came out, when rap actually, like the first times I started hearing, like I remember listening to Ice-T. I'm your pusher. I'm not gonna sing that one because hey,
you can sing it.
Whatever. So anyway, I remember hearing it, thinking, what the fuck is this? And then Too Short.
Yeah.
Came
Life
like
is Too Short. Yeah.
Too Short was out. And then but I remember there was people like MC Hammer.
Yeah.
LL Cool J. Like I remember those songs. LL Cool J is Hard as Bells, right? Like
Hard as hell.
Hard as hell.
Rock
hard
the
as hell.
bells.
Rock the bells. Rock the bells. My bad.
It's okay.
So I remember listening to that. I remember listening to Roxanne.
Oh yeah.
I want to be your man. Like I remember all that
UTFO,
shit. Like and I remember Young MC.
Yeah.
I remember these are like I think the early stages of like it was almost like dance music and rap combining, but it was like it's almost like today when you listen to reggaeton, or not today, but like a few years ago when reggaeton came on the scene in the early 2000s, I think, or late 90s, I forget when reggaeton came on the scene, and you were just like, whoa, this is fucking different. When the lambada came on the scene, this is fucking different. Does it have the staying power? Clearly, hip-hop had not only the staying power, but it's had a lot more longevity than I would say heavy metal.
Well, I was wondering how long it would take you to bring up the lambada.
Okay.
But yeah.
Yeah, no. I mean, it was, there was so many, when you heard, I remember the first time I heard NWA.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I was in high school.
Those first words on that album, like, now that you think about it, when it's like you are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge. Think about it now, like what that
that was the
thing
equivalent
has done now. It's like,
yeah,
it's crazy how far that album has pushed into our lives, into the world.
Right, and it was like nothing, like it just hit you in the fucking face. Unapologetic. So yeah, no, I wasn't immersed in hip hop, but I don't know that it missed me. Like I was aware of it, and I knew of it, and I respected it, just as an art form, obviously, because a lot of
young, so
I was young, but I was very much into lyrics. Like I loved lyrics. The music was great, and I loved the music, obviously the sound, and there's music just touches a part of your soul. I feel that it makes you bang your head. It makes you move your hips. It makes you, run in a circle. It makes you, you get the drums. It makes you get in touch with a primal, Hawaiians, natives, the drums, Africans. That it's very, Ricky Ricardo used to hit the bongo and channel Babalu and Orisha, right? And so... I think it's very powerful, but when you put words to it, like lyrics, I always listen to them, and I thought it's fascinating because a lot of it is poetry. Tupac had some amazing fucking lyrics, right? And then I listened to NWA. That's why the lyrics were just like, oh my, these motherfuckers, this is beautiful. And I lived in it. I saw it. I got I got hit by the cops. I had friends that, and I'm not saying all cops are bad. I'm not trying to get into that chingadera. But
maybe everybody our age got hit at least once by the cops.
Yes,
because I got smacked
hit
in the head as an 8-year-old. I got hit in the head by a cop.
The first time I got hit, I got my hair pulled and hit. I was in probably 10th grade. And then from there, I got hit behind the knees. I had a friend that...
You've been chased?
By cops?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fucking by cops, by my parents, by people shooting. I mean, it was a crazy time at the time,
And you lived in a pretty hardcore neighborhood.
It was nuts. Yeah, I remember partying with my homies and gunfights would break out. And, it was a crack. It was literally where crack was being, like an In-N-Out drive-through. Like literally like an In-N-Out drive-through. My friend lived right there. And we'd go drinking there, and it was normal to us to see all these cars just come. They're buying crack, of course, fuck it.
How did you, from all that, I mean, this is a kind of like a dumb question, but, I mean, I say this a lot. Some of the questions are dumb, but it's like I'm trying to get to an answer. But, how did Martin right there, being young, growing up, guns, rock and roll, hip-hop, and then, find that comedy bug? Where did this
I didn't
start?
find the comedy bug. The comedy bug was always in me. Even as a kid, I would get books that had to do with riddles and jokes, and I always wanted to make people laugh. I wanted to do silly things so that people could laugh. My earliest recollection of people laughing is being at Disneyland, fucking little kid, with a Donald Duck hat and turning the hat down to cover my face. And then just kind of moving silly and waving at people like I'm one of the characters, and all these people just laughing and making noises and just surrounding me because I was doing that. And I was like, oh my God, that felt good. That felt cool. I always just, I grew up, with crooked fingers in a time where bullying, that wasn't called bullying. It was just people picking on you and just fucking,
that was socialized.
Bro, I mean, I'm telling you, the paisas across the street would call me malecho, bro. Like, what the fuck, bro? Made wrong. That's crazy time.
I was cara de medio muerto at one
Dude, you see what I'm saying?
They scratched my face.
But bro, dude, one time I passed out. They couldn't wake me up. They called me dead man. Like, and so I grew up instead of it was like the Eminem something, and like before you say it, I'm gonna fucking say something about me to make you laugh, because I had gotten picked on and made fun of for so long about, you know, everything. You know, I was clumsy and the whole thing.
Our own families would attack.
But of course. But you know, back to what we were talking about. Oh, hip hop. That's where we were at. I know I just went backwards, and you probably have notes here, and you're like, oh, we got to move on, motherfucker. We're talking about how did you get the comedy bug? No, I'm still talking about lyrics, you fuck. So I used to listen to you know, like bands like MDC, you know, Multi Death Corporation.
Wow. Yeah.
And these guys were talking about GMOs in chocolate in the early 80s. Wow. Like, so when you're, and I'm listening to this shit, they're talking about Hershey's, you know, buy a Hershey, you buy death, radioactive chocolate forever and ever, radioactive chocolate forever and ever. You know, that's fascinating that these guys were touching on these things, you know, ahead of the time. And you know, they were talking about, you know, the war machine and politicians for sale, and the profit that I mean, they were talking about this shit where people are now saying, oh, you gotta find out what's going on, you gotta be woke, blah 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 blah. These guys were fucking screaming this shit years ago. You know, they were talking about McDonald's. You know, they were talking about buy a burger, you buy death. You know, anyway. So listening to NWA was like, oh fuck, like this is really, they're really putting a flashlight on what's going on. You know, at the time, you know, Rodney King, bro, was happening. There was a lot of fucking violence against minorities from the people that are supposed to protect them, you know? And so that, to me, when you see all the protests today and how the movement for, you know, to say, hey, man, stop fucking up people of color, you know, and you can even go back. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, I'm saying no, NWA is responsible for it, because people were screaming, stop hitting us in the 60s. People were screaming in the 1800s.
This is cyclical,
yes, correct, you know. And,
it's always happening.
You know, but to put the message into the mainstream, I think was what NWA did.
Nice.
Anyway, now we can go ahead and, how did you get the comedy bug, Martine? Well, there I was laying in bed, and the bug just crawled in my ear and said, hey, you should go tell jokes. And I said, all right, bug.
But you also grew up at a time where, like, it wasn't like a popular thing.
It was not. It was not. And as a matter of fact, I wanted to do it from a very early age, but it was never something I thought I could do. It wasn't for you. I thought you need to go to college. You need to do this, because for everything you needed to go to college. Without college, you couldn't fucking move.
Well, that's what they told us.
Oh, they programmed us with that shit, you know? So I'm like, oh, I don't have college.
And anybody who didn't go to college felt like a failure, you know?
For years I did, you know, for years. And the crazy thing is I took a lot of college classes. I took classes at Cal State LA for a while. But what would happen is at that time, there was no real way to track shit. So I would take the class and I'd never pay for it. And so I'd get, so I took the classes, but in order,
you wouldn't get the credit.
I wouldn't get the credit, but I learned, and I still, like I said, I felt like a failure. If people had a degree, I felt inferior to them, no matter how, because there's a lot of dumb fucks with degrees, Rafa.
Oh yeah, I know.
You know, and yet, you know, I'm like, this is motherfucker got, you know, but they had the tenacity to stick it out, and I guess that shows something.
There's so much still to like have a degree. I mean, it's a lot of fucking hard work.
Yeah, no knock on the people that have a degree.
No knock on the people that have a degree, but there's a lot of very intelligent people without degrees.
Of course.
Too. So yeah, not to knock on those people, because I still support education a lot, and I always tell people that haven't got their degree and they're young, go get it, because you don't want to be 50 and not have it, right? Because you still have that, like, damn it.
And it took me a long time to finally get over that. I need this piece of paper for validation, but I did. I finally did get over it a few years ago. You're not? No. Get over that shit, dude. Fuck that. fuck it. Seriously. You can.
I mean, I might do like an online thing one day and just finish.
You know how? You know what you want? What do you want to learn? What is it that you want to learn? Go on goddamn Google and fucking start reading.
YouTube and Google are the best teachers.
Yes, you can teach.
I go to
you
YouTube
can get
University.
your own. Yes, the University of Google, the University of YouTube.
Easy,
you can just learn whatever it is that you want to learn, and not what they're telling. Like critical race theory is a big thing right now because God forbid and actually I don't want to speak on it too much, but there's history that we've been taught, and then there's what really happened. And what really happened, you can put a blanket over it and cover it up for a very long time, but when information starts getting out there, it'll be out there.
I don't think this will air in Texas now because you said that, but
what, I don't get it. What did I miss? Texas.
No, I'm just saying that the Texas won't want to hear any of the.
Oh, there you go. Yes. Ah, very good. And look, and again, it's one of those things that you can what I was taught as history was extremely especially in the early years, unless you get into a graduate program or a degree program where your major is history, you're really not learning a whole lot of shit other than a lot of
they're just telling you who the heroes are.
Correct. And they're actually telling you who heroes are. Yes. Yeah. They're anyway. So yeah.
These are the kind of things that you hear on Martin's podcast. If you I wanted to get into this too because you have a podcast called the Yo 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 podcast, and that is a podcast that you do with your son.
Correct.
Hooter Moreno, whose real name is
Martin.
He's a junior, but he goes by Hooter. And I don't know if there's any other like father-son comedy like teams that I know of. I can't think of anything. So how's that like been? Being able to work with your son, being able to like bring him into the community, or and how did
I learned a lot from Hooter, and which is crazy because for his birthday I gave him a shout out on my social media and I put role model.
Nice.
And years ago, I remember we were in Gabe's Hummer and I was giving him a ride somewhere, and we pulled over at a gas station and this hot chick comes up and she's like, "Hey, can you give me a ride? I just need a ride." And I mean, fucking coochie cutter shorts, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, And Hooter's like, "Are you fucking crazy?" He might have been like 14, 15. He's like, "The fuck are you doing, dude?"
That's hilarious.
He might have been like 13, probably 14 or 13. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I mean, so he's always been level-headed, where I've just been this fucking maniac most of my life, I mean, it just fuck. I mean, I remember my dad used to give me beers before I got in the car. It wasn't like, don't drink and drive. It's like, here, take one for the road if you're not going to drink it here. It's completely irresponsible, horrible shit. But,
back then you wouldn't drive anywhere. If it was at least an hour drive, you'd have beer in the car.
Which is insane.
You'd be like, we're going, let's stop at the store. You always stopped for beer.
It was normal to see for me or in my circle, in my world, and not saying that this was okay. Yeah. We didn't know any better. Just completely
but it was normal
ignorant.
And driving. Yeah.
It's very normal. We saw our parents do it. We saw everybody do it. Everybody had a beer between their legs.
Cops would pull you over and say, "All right, dump those and go on," or put those in your trunk.
Yeah.
You can't have those up here.
A lot of times they wouldn't really fuck with DUIs. They didn't realize how much money they could make on them.
Until they did.
Yeah, until they did. And look, and nobody should be driving drunk. This is by no means defending drunk driving.
No, it's horrible.
So anyway, that's the dumb shit that I grew up listening to. Like, that's what when people say you got to respect your parents. You know what? Sometimes our parents, God bless them, they did the best they could with what they had, but some of the shit that they instill in us is horrible garbage, Seriously.
No, it's true, but they didn't know anything.
They didn't know any better. But by the same token, once you do find out, well, I still gotta honor my parents.
Yeah.
Nah, dude.
Then it's up to you.
Yeah, correct. It's work talking to him. I think he keeps me more relevant because there's things that I think I still hold on to, you know, like some shit, and then he's like, hey, that's kind of fucking whack, or this is this, or this is that, you know. He's more in tune with, you know, and shit, he just turned 31, so it's not like he's a spring chicken, but he's way more connected to the young world than I am. You know, as much as we try to stay current, time is just the evolution of what's happening to society is just growing like I've never seen before in my 50 years. I was gonna say that. We're
at that time right now where things are growing like that. So get your Bitcoin and NFTs. You know, so.
NFTs are a thing.
Same age as your son. She's just 1 year older than him.
Oh, she's 32.
Yeah, but it's the same. You know, like I'm always surprised at what a good kid she is, and you know, being how bad I used to fuck around and do crazy shit when I was young, and she was the complete opposite. Always too checking me, like, you know, don't do that or come this way. You know, like, it's a trip, but it's a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful, and I think it's awesome to recognize that, because there's a lot of people our age with kids that are grown, and they're still like, I'm your fucking dad, I know better. It's like, hey man, this is a grown ass man you're talking to right here. Like, that's not gonna fly, you know. That pinche mano de piedra of like, what I say goes, y aquí yo mando. That was a thing for a very long time. And there's still parents, like I said today, that are like, you're living under my goddamn roof, you're not going to do that shit. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm just going to lie to you and hide behind your back. And I think that the moment that you realize these are grown humans that, you know, think about when your parents would say, no hagas esto, and you would go and figure it out.
Of sneaking out of the house.
Oh my God, and taking your dad's car.
Oh, dude.
It's fucking insane.
I used to take my uncle's car, my sister's car. I hope she doesn't hear this, but
yeah, dude. Oh, I'm sure they knew at some point. Dude, my dad used to sleep with the keys under his pillow. I'd still fucking take them. I'd still take them. Like, this motherfucker's passed out. He ain't gonna wake up.
Classics.
Yeah. Anyway.
Damn, you made me lose my train of thought right there.
That's all good. That's perfect.
Let's go into a little bit about I just want to get a little bit more into the comedy life and touring for a long time. I know you took a little break, but you're back on touring again. You're touring with Fluffy. And shit, you're gonna do fucking Dodger Stadium too, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's like another historic moment that's coming up. And it's only coincidence that I had Alfred in here last week talking about the same thing, and then you in here talking about Dodger Stadium as well. Alfred, I grew up with, so I wanted to have him on to tell neighborhood stories, and it's only coincidence that I also know you through the comedy and coming and doing the shows at Eastside Love, and we've stayed in touch for a long time. But it's a coincidence that both of you are fucking Fluffy's opener. It's a trip to me.
Well, you called me and said, hey, I just had Alfred. I'd like to have you. Nice. I mean, if you want to call that a coincidence. No, I'm kidding. Actually, I was supposed to come in here before, but I got COVID. So this was so it is. So it was complete, you know, fate that it made it work out this way. But anyway, what was the question?
How tell me some stories about touring and being on tour with Fluffy, or you know, how is that in your life? Because I mean, it's got to be crazy to like tour the world, literally the world. You guys have been to how many different countries and done giant fucking arenas and stadiums?
I think the biggest thing for me, and I didn't see it until I saw it, but I literally, you know, as old as I was when I started comedy, because I was older, I was relatively speaking to start something like a comedy career. I was 31. And so the fact that shit just the doors opened was like, what? It was a mind fuck. I was doing shows with Gabe in Virginia and in, you know, Columbus, and just going from a very, and again, didn't realize it at the time. I went from a very small world that I didn't really wasn't exposed to a whole lot of things. You know, my God, I didn't even learn how to cut meat until I was a grown person.
Like at the dinner table.
Yeah, just fucking like a savage, just, grab the hueso and go, and,
That's crazy.
so I didn't really, like know a whole lot of things, nor was I exposed to a whole lot of things. My world, as big as I thought that it was extremely small. And the more I started traveling through the country, you start, you go from doing Latino night at the Laugh Factory to all of a sudden finding yourself in Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, performing for, couples that, are out on a date and super conservative values. And I'm up there talking about hoochies and psychos and pulling hair and fucking, dropping candle wax from a prayer candle on the chicks because I'm too broke to buy a real sex candle, and how I like psychos and people are just like, what the fuck is this guy talking about, right? Yeah. And just bombing my ass off, thinking like, what the fuck? They don't know hoochies. They don't know fucking, they don't
term hoochie. They probably,
you know what I'm saying? Like, and so I it took me a minute to even figure. Like, I was brand new in the game of comedy, so to end up touring across the country before I even figured out how to be funny was just incredible, Wow. Now, don't get me wrong. You put me on a Tuesday night at the Ice House at that time, I'm going to do so many Latino references on Latino night that it's going to smash. Yeah. But it's a very, again, small world. And then you start going to Hawaii, you start going to, Oklahoma, places in Texas, they're Latinos, but they're a different type of Latino. They're Tejanos.
What about shows like Middle East?
Well, that's the other thing, because then once you start figuring out the United States, which is a big, as big as the United States is, because it's huge, every state sometimes in a lot of places in the world could be its own country with their own customs and beliefs, which are very different from a state right across the way.
California
it's
and Arizona. It's like,
my God, you've got New Mexico and Texas, and you got Mississippi. You got so many of these places that are very unique to themselves. And then you start kind of figuring that out, and you start figuring out how to cross over to all these different people and make it more relevant to everybody. And then you get put on a stage that's even bigger when you start going international, when you start going to Europe and you start going to Norway and Sweden, and you're just like, oh, fuck, okay, they're not going to get this reference that is universal here. So what's an international thing? What is the one, and which is the beautiful thing about comedy, is that funny is funny. And if you can figure out what's funny to a Mexican, an American, a Norwegian, there's some things that, if you go up to a Norwegian and say fucking, if estaba Pepito, he's going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, exactly. But if you go up to them and start talking about something way more universal, and then that's when you realize just how small your experience was. And I was a grown man when I started comedy, but I was still very immature, both mentally and emotionally. I feel like I really grew up on the road, learning along the way, and getting loaded and making the mistakes that you make as you start getting more experience, and then when you start growing like that, what happens is you start realizing that there's people that never leave, and not that they don't grow, because they grow, but they grow where you're planted, right? And that growth will determine if you're planted on on somewhere fertile, you're gonna grow and you're gonna bloom. But if you're planted somewhere where it's a little more rough, your growth is gonna be stunned.
That's a beautiful analogy. Yeah.
You know, so I realized just how stunned my growth was. That's what being on the road has done for me. I hope that answers your question.
That answers more than my question. I appreciate it a lot. I want to talk a little bit about. I'm completely turning the subject here, but
listen, I live my life like a ADD brain, brother.
Or I guess actually to connect that, like touring the world, being around, being a talker, talking to people, having people listen to you, and then like kind of creating your own little church here at home. You have your own kind of like little church that worships weed, right?
That's not my church, but I have gone to a weed church.
So what is the little ceremony that you do at your shows?
Oh, okay. So that's different. That's so funny. I was talking on my spiritual podcast about this. So I have Yo podcast with my son and Hooter
after this, but yeah.
But it ties into it, I guess.
Yeah, go for it. So real quick, Martin has another podcast that is called
Brujo 101.
Brujo 101, where you and your co-host,
yes, who is a santera, Tanya, Ashe Imports is her Instagram.
And you guys discuss spirituality.
We just discuss spirituality, religion, you know, just everything that in that vein, you know. And I fought religion for a very long time.
So this is what I wanted to lead into, is like your connection to religion.
Oh my God, it runs very deep.
Yeah, I know.
But just to try to stay on topic here, I ended up at a weed church. And I don't remember if I did communion first or hit the weed church.
So this was a real church.
Yes. Now, there's a lot of places that pop up and say, we are a church, and this is sacrament, and you're buying sacrament, therefore it should not be taxed, and you should not fuck with us, and there's no real church there.
Yeah.
But I found a church that has since been shut down and raided and whatnot, where they had a legitimate message backed up by scripture, and which blew my mind completely, because I am a Bible nerd, believe it or not. And so when I could find something in there, and don't get me wrong, I'm not, but being a Bible nerd and reading the scriptures is a lot different than saying, oh my God, I'm such a believer. I'm not trying to deceive anybody.
No, you just like the literature and you can
and the
analyze
history
it
and the history of it. Yes. And so, but anyway, when I went to this church and they started talking about the anointing oil and how Moses got the recipe for the anointing oil, and how they used to, once you realize what that recipe is, and you realize, holy shit, it was cannabis. You know, the original texts were written in Aramaic, and I think that it's the recipe is cinnamon and myrrh, cassia,
and kush.
Yeah. Cannabisum. And now the translation is loosely fragrant reed. And so cannabisum and calamus are both fragrant reeds. The translation called it calamus. Now calamus has, I think, 3 different hierbas, varieties. 2 of them are toxic and cause cancer. Okay, now cannabisum, you know, when the book of, I think it's, God, I wish I would have been more prepared for this. I think it's Exodus, right?
Okay.
And
nobody's gonna test you on this.
And anyway, it says store your storerooms with, you know, calamus, but it's not calamus. It's that's toxic. So that you can have oil, food, and the herb, and clothing. You could make all of that from cannabis. You cannot make that from cassia. What's fascinating to me is that if you pick up a Torah and you go to that particular scripture, there's a picture of a weed plant in there. Okay. This is clearly whether it was purposely done or intentionally done, a misprint. And we've known that for many, many years, but nothing's been done about it. The Catholic Church still makes their anointing oil if they're following the calamus recipe with toxic. The pastor of the church that I was at, actually would go to these churches and say, I will bathe in my anointing oil. Will you do the same in yours? And they'd be like, you're trolling us, you're trespassing, get out of here, we're going to call the police. The recipe calls for, I think it takes, and don't quote me on this, I want to say it's like 6 or 7 pounds of flour to make this concentrate, which is a fucking crazy ass concentrate. And so once you condense that into an oil, it's very powerful. So when you anoint your priests with this in their head, they will have visions. They will have a spiritual experience with this oil. And this oil will also, you go to churches today and they got Goya and they're putting it on your goddamn forehead. It's not going to do a goddamn thing for you other than give you oily skin. The anointing oil of the Old Testament. Yes. You go to a Guatemalan church, see what happens. Anyway, much love to the Guatemalans, by the way. You see these kids today on Instagram that are seizing. They give them the THC and they stop hitting them. They stop seizing. Some of these kids that are on the spectrum that are hitting themselves and hurting themselves, they stop hurting themselves once they take a hit off this vape. That's a small dose. Imagine back then if you're, possessed by demons and seizing, and they put this oil on you, it's probably going to chill you the fuck out and do some miracles for you. So anyway, that's what I learned at that church, which was like, okay, you're teaching me something here. Yeah. I'm learning this, and it's not only is it backed up by the scripture that predates the New Testament. This is the old Hebrew Torah. This is in those, the first 5 books of the Old Testament is what the Torah is to the Jewish faith, and in there, which these are way more ancient writings than the writings in the after Jesus was born. So the Old Testament is before he was born. New Testament tells us all about his life here on earth. And so when you start realizing, my God, and then you start doing more research, you realize that it's been used in spiritual practices way before organized religion was even around. And then you start realizing, my goodness, both hallucinogens, psychedelics and THC have been used in spiritual rituals for fucking millennia.
And so how did that take you
so now
I went to a show of yours where
you
were giving edibles, serious doses of edibles.
Well, to the people that wanted them.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Forcing
No.
But they were lining up.
So we did a show, and it's funny. Remind me to tell you that somebody called me out on it. Okay. But we did a show with the Yo podcast, and at the time, I was off the road. I was doing a lot of spoken word. I was just experimenting with different things. Some
cool stuff you were doing.
I was out there with my homie Victor, and he would take his guitar and he'd have some drum beats, and then I just, I'd go to coffee shops, in the valley, or different places. And I did Eastside Love. I actually did Behind Eastside Love. And I just had this, I did a place out in
behind Primera Taza.
Yes, behind Primera Taza. And then in Santa Monica, did a little theater there at one point, where I was just had this music in the background. And then I was doing this spoken word narrative type of thing, just experimenting with stream of consciousness and just going with an outline, but kind of like wherever this takes me, it takes me. And I was smoking a lot of weed while I was doing this.
That's why it was outdoors.
Yeah. And so it then my experience with religion, the one thing that everybody has, that a lot of the religions that I've been a part of, they have the communion, where you take the host and the wine or grape juice or whatever. So I said, I want to hand out communion to all these people. We're all here. We're all communion. We're going to have communion. And so I had, music in the background playing some kind of psychedelic spiritual church music, I guess. And I had edibles, and then I had a medicated glaze that would go on the edible. Right?
Yeah, it looked like Cheese Whiz.
Yes, but it was medicated. Yeah. And then I had the house wine at this particular I don't want to put them on blast. Is called Blood of Christ.
Oh shit.
Okay, and
That's
the bottle is the crucifixion, and from the nails on the hands, I don't know if you've ever seen the label. The nails in the hands, there's blood dripping
into the wine glass.
And
it's beautiful.
It's a great wine.
And it just happened to be the house wine.
It happens to be the house wine. Yeah. So I'm giving the blood of Christ. Bro. I'm telling, literally, when you go to church, they tell you blood of Christ and you get grape juice. You feel lied to. Yeah. Here, I'm giving you the blood of Christ. Read the label. There's no. It could be. It could. No. It says blood of fucking Christ. Yeah. No disrespect to all the believers out there. Anyway, we had that, and I had little shot glasses just like they do at the church. And then, I said, so then me, Hooter were up on stage, and we just started, this was at the end of the show, and we said, listen, we're about to have communion. And I'm going to paraphrase it. I don't remember word for word what we said. And there were people were calling Hooter Saint Hooter. It was so freaking funny, bro. Well, we had done, let me backtrack. We had done these things that we would call ganzas, extravaganza, anything that has a ganza on it. It just sounds good, right? Yeah. So we had this Christmas one where we were, the Dia de los Reyes, when you have the Rosca de Reyes, and you have the baby Jesus in there, and then whoever gets the baby Jesus has to throw the party next year. So we had one of those Rosca de Reyes on one of these ganzas, and we had the baby Jesus, but it was before the 6th and before the 25th. So we said, whoever gets the preemie baby Jesus, and then people were like, preemie? Don't worry. He makes it all the way to the point where they kill him. And so we had and if you got the preemie baby Jesus, you were gonna get paddled by look, that's God punishing me, right? You're gonna get paddled by a dominatrix, right, or whatever. So it was freaking awesome, right? And so who got the preemie baby Jesus, blah blah blah, and then it just became this thing where it's it became almost like this service at the end of the show. And so me and Huro are up there at this particular one that you're talking about, and then we're like, hey man, we're about to have communion, and this communion can be a symbol for whatever you want it to be. Whatever you've got that's bothering you today, I want you to let that shit go. You got fucking bills that are past due. You can't unfuck them right now. You can't fix them right now. Let that shit go. And then Hooter starts screaming, right? You got your car's about to get repoed. You're not going to fix it. You're not going to pay it today. Let it go. You got child support that you owe. You got this. You got that. Let that shit go and live your life and don't worry about shit. Fix it later. Tonight, you can't be in the moment. Be in the moment and let that shit go. And I think that a lot of times what we're trying to say, when we didn't even realize it, but afterwards I thought, wow, was that divine inspiration saying, be in the fucking moment? Because how many times are you sitting somewhere and your mind is not there? You're not enjoying what's going on. You're not, let alone all the distractions that you have with your phone, not letting you be in the moment. But the problems, the this, the that, completely occupy all of your thoughts, that you're not, that now you're living in this fear. And that vibration is a horrible vibration. So to say, let it go right now, at this moment, you can't unfuck it. As you partake in this, just think what you got to let go and then move forward. And when it's time to face it, obviously, and fix it. But right now, you can't do shit about it. Enjoy the moment. Now, so as you come up, think about letting it go. And so then they lined up. And my God, that line went to the back of the room, and then we had the thing, and then it's like, okay, this is the miracle glaze. How much miracle glaze do you want? And then they're like, oh yeah, pour it on. Like these people that were stoners were like, pour it on. Other people were like, I don't want no miracle glaze. I'll just take the, because it was edible, a low dose. It was a low dose edible. I think it was like 3 milligrams or something like that. But if you added the glaze, it got a little bit higher, and the more glaze you put on there, the more stronger it became. And so I start taking it, and then we're giving them the blood of Christ, right? And so, hey, St. Hooter, hook me up, like blah, blah, and the music's playing, and people are coming, and we're like, let it go. Just let it go, brother. Hallelujah, let it go. And they're coming, and they're getting the edibles, and holy shit, it was, you got G. Riley was there, comedian G. Riley, and there's a part where you could hear him in the background say, dip it in the blood, it tastes better, which is the funniest. To me, that was one of the funniest moments when he said, dip it in the blood, it tastes better. What a soundbite. But the people that went, there was people that were like, what the fuck did I just see? And I am never coming back to this craziness again. And
I don't think so. I mean,
there was some people
the majority though, like
the majority were on board.
90% of the people
were
on board.
Yes, the majority of the people were on board. There were some people that were like, I'm cool with this, but I'm not getting in line. This is sacrilegious, Oh, and that's the other thing. Right now, you guys are thinking, you're thinking, this is a sin. I'm going to piss off Diosito.
Let it go.
Don't do this. That's your nana talking. Let it go. That's not Diosito telling you shit. That's your nana. And so, and that is literally a lot of the fear that we have of something being sacrilegious. It was taught to us. It was taught to us. There's things that you're like, oh, okay, I shouldn't do this shit. But then that's innate. But then there's other things that have been programmed into you. Don't touch yourself. I mean, I don't know if you grew up with the shame of masturbation, but it was a shameful thing.
Never.
I thought that I was going to hell. I tried my best not to do it.
Back then, nobody even talked about it. Like now, every kid and not kid, but everybody talks about, like every young comedian, everything is about masturbation. Men and women talk about it. But back then,
taboo.
It was a taboo subject.
It was, and don't do it.
You wouldn't even tell your friends.
God's watching.
Yeah.
God's watching you from heaven. You don't want to disappoint him.
Yeah.
He's going to be disappointed.
Now, I kind of want to switch the gears a little bit here because we're deep into it. But I just want to, because you're a thinker, and I know that you overanalyze or just analyze a lot of stuff. And I just found a couple of words, and I just want to say these words and see what they do to you, like in the context of laughter and what it means to humans. So, does laughter equal happiness?
Laughter equals healing.
Elaborate a little bit.
I don't think laughter, because you could be in the worst pain and unhappy, but yet you're laughing in order to cope with that pain. People deal with grief in different ways. And I think laughter is also a mechanism to deal with something. When a tragedy happens, and some people will say the most crazy shit, and it's funny, but you're just like, God, and then like too soon. No, that's just their way of coping with that loss. That's the way of them making themselves laugh. I don't think that happiness, laughter, drinking, nothing defines happiness. Happiness is innate. If you're not happy, I don't care how much somebody makes you laugh. I don't care how much somebody feeds you. I don't care how much somebody sucks your dick. If you're not happy, none of those things will make you happy.
What do you think of, or I'm just going to say these two words and you tell me, comedy equals tragedy?
I think the tragedies associated with theater and comedy, I think historically come from the Greeks, right? Mm-hmm. And we were taught to think that, and you think, the tears of a clown and maybe this person is being funny in order to deal with the pain. So yeah, does it equal? I think it can, not always, but I think a lot of some of the funniest humans have been deeply hurt, and to use one example, I'll say Richard Pryor. This is a person with severe pain to the point where, and I think he was probably one of the funniest people to ever walk on the planet. But there was so much pain propelling that, and so much tragedy. So yes, I think that you can equate the two.
I always thought it was really interesting how they both make you cry.
Sure.
Laughter makes you cry. Mm-hmm. And of course,
oh my God, stop it.
Yeah, and of course, tragedy makes you cry. And they both hurt somehow, in the same region here.
Yeah.
So I do see something similar
for sure
in them. And they say, the old thing is a guy is walking in the street and he falls in a manhole and he breaks his leg. That's, pretty tragic. But if a guy walks over the manhole and he falls in and he dies, well, that's comedy. That's funny. Part.
So, that if you're walking in the dark and you fall into the manhole, it's understandable. But when you're walking in the light and you still jump in the manhole, you're an asshole. You're a dumb motherfucker and you deserve to break your legs or die.
And so that's another, there's another theory about the superiority theory where when you see somebody do something dumb, you laugh because you somehow feel a little superior to that person.
Yes.
So that's a whole nother side of
Bro, look at people don't want to look, maybe it's impolitically correct to say, but there's a lot of dumb motherfuckers. Dumb motherfuckers. There's no way you don't know dumb motherfuckers. If you're fucking almost 50 or you're 50, you've met some dumb motherfuckers in your life where you're
I've been the dumb motherfucker.
Yes. And so to say there's no such thing as a dumb motherfucker, and sometimes dumb motherfuckers do some funny shit.
Yeah.
It's horrible, but you're oh, this dumb motherfucker.
And as a comedian, sometimes I see comedians do the self-deprecating humor where you make yourself the idiot and so the audience feels better the whole time.
Absolutely.
And you're just helping the audience feel better the whole time, right?
Laugh at my pain.
So 2 more words to tell me what you think. Comedy equals truth.
Comedy equals truth. I think it can in some instances. A lot of comedy comes from personal experience. And a lot of comedy is observational humor. So in those instances, yes, it comes from truth. But then there's also Pepito and knock knock. Orange. Aren't you glad I didn't say banana? Okay, now there's no... depending on what type of comedy you're talking about, I think great comedy equals truth.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Well... We usually, first of all, thank you so much.
Is it over?
Well, not yet. We're still.
Okay, well, listen, I wanted to say thank you for the cup of coffee. It's fantastic. And I asked you, because you're selling coffee now. I didn't know you were selling coffee. And I want to give your coffee a plug here. It's rafa-LA Dancing SOBR. SOBR, is that right?
Yeah.
Dancing SOBR medium roast, which is one of my favorite roasts. Medium and light roast are my favorite roast. Yeah. I think congratulations. I didn't know that you had entered the coffee, and I'm sorry to take over your
no, that's fine.
right now.
You're
I don't want to take you away from your outline there. But I think that this is fantastic. What made you get into the coffee world?
Well, I have a friend that actually roasts in LA, and when my daughter was in high school, we did a fundraiser through him for her school, and so. He gave me the bags at a wholesale price, and the students sold them and made money for whatever they're making money for. And when I started to do this, it was the first thing I thought of. I was like, all right, let's do some of this. So,
So where can people...
And I drink a lot of coffee. You could get it at shoprafa.com.
Shoprafa.com. I'm really curious to know what this coffee tastes like. And I wish I could, after this cup of coffee, I wish I could tell you what it tastes like.
There's no coffee grinders in this office.
Okay, so how long have you been here?
Keurig.
How long have you been here?
About 2 hours.
No. How many weeks have you been here?
10 episodes.
10 episodes, so minimum of 10 weeks.
Yeah.
And in those 10 goddamn weeks, the grinder's what, 20 goddamn? Here's what I'm going to do, Rafa. Here's what I'm going to do.
Oh, there is a grinder.
It's a goddamn grinder.
I had no idea.
Can I see this? What is this? What is this here? And this is a fancy goddamn grinder. I feel embarrassed of the grinder I was going to give you now, because I was going to gift you a grinder and a coffee pot so that when your guests come and you say, would you like a cup of coffee? It's Dancing Cobra and not the goddamn Keurig. How in the fuck are you not giving me the coffee that you're selling so I could say, this is a delicious cup of Dancing Sober?
Dancing Cobra is...
We got a French press. We got a French press.
This is actually a jalapeno holder. You put the jalapenos in there and you lift them up like this.
Okay, Rafa. So here it is. Get off your ass and serve your guests dancing. Unless it's too expensive.
No, it's not.
For you to give away a cup.
We could totally do that.
So check out Shop Rafa.
Shoprafa.com.
Shoprafa.com. Pick up some Dancing Sober medium roast and let me know how it tastes, because I'm really curious. So yes, thank you for the cup of coffee that wasn't Dancing Sober.
And thank you for the plug.
No, of course, I love you. I love you.
You can thank Renee for this coffee.
Thank you, Renee.
Well, we usually end this with a simple question that I ask every guest. It's because I think that everybody that comes here has some kind of magic and some kind of thing. The way that you do the things that you do is magical to me. So the question is, Martin Moreno, how do you do it?
I've never given it thought, but now when I do it, I will strive to do it with passion and love.
With passion and love.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Even if Nike says just do it.
All right, Martin. Thank you so much. Thank you for the plug. And
Dancing Sober medium roast at shoprafa.com. shoprafa.com. Get your coffee, taste it, and let me know what it tastes like.
I'm going to send you a bag. Let us know where people can find you.
MartinMoreno.com, Martin Comic, and that's it. No more plugs.
All
That's
right,
good.
brother.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.
It was a blast.
We'll see you at Dodger Stadium.
Thank you.
Good night. So thank you for staying here till the end of this podcast. And these are the things that we're going to give away. First, this Movita water bottle. It's one of those vacuum sealed ones. It's pretty dope, stainless steel. This is a beautiful little bottle. This is going to go to the first person to comment below. What was the wrong name that Martin gave to the coffee? He said it right a few times, but when he was making fun of the coffee, he said the name wrong once. The first person in the comments to say the wrong name or to tell me what the wrong name was gets the water bottle. Also, anybody who wins has to come pick this up in Boyle Heights. I'm not shipping anything. The second thing we're giving away is this 7-day detox kit. 7-day detox. So Movita Juice Bar doesn't only have like the fresh stuff that they make there, but they also do food prep and things like this. 7-day detox kit. This is going to go to the person who answers in the comments on YouTube. How old is Martin Moreno? How old is he? Also, so that's for that. So the third thing we're giving away is they sent us, the people at Movita sent us 2 gift cards. I don't know how much money is in this, but there's 2 gift cards here. And the first person to share the podcast on Instagram and tag 3 friends gets one. And the first person to share this on Twitter and tag 3 friends gets this. So whoever's the winner, I'm going to reshare their post. And that's how you'll know that the winner's already been announced. And that's it. Hope you look for my NFT on OpenSea.com. Look under Dancing Sober Podcast or under Rafael Cardenas. And have a good week. See you next week.